Hey, everybody, I'm Steve Alexander, Dr. A. That's Kirien Sprecher over there. We've got all your NBA playoff news covered right here. We're going to break down what happened on Monday. We're going to take a look ahead at Tuesday. Speaking of Tuesday, it is May 7th, Tuesday. And this is the award-winning RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I just hit the wrong button. You know, Kieran, sometimes you nail the cold open, sometimes you don't. I'm a little out of sorts today. My light died. I'm kind of sitting here in the dark in my mom's attic, and you don't have any good lighting because it's raining where you are. But you know what we do have? We have some pretty fun NBA stuff to talk about, and also as a Pacers fan, some not so fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought the Pacers played pretty well for game one. Had a chance to steal it, but didn't come away with the victory.
They were winning. They were up 9 late. They had the game. We got a ghost kick call. And when it happened, my son looked at me and he goes, "Why would they call that a kick if they weren't certain that it was a kick?" And then, of course, it clearly hit a hand and not a foot. It was just a missed call. I mean, I'm really not even that mad at the ref. It kind of looked like a kick in real time. But it was a massive call, a massive point of the game. And then, you know, once everything got sorted out, it's not challengeable. Why is that? Like, shouldn't everything be challengeable in the last 2 minutes? Like, they need to update those rules. I think that was a big tie game with 56 seconds left, and instead of the Pacers getting the ball, the Knicks got the ball. And that's all she wrote. And then we had a kind of a ghost foul call on Miles Turner for a moving screen that Stan Van Gundy said they never, ever, ever, ever call that, especially that late in a playoff game. He didn't like the call. The Pacers don't like the call. Most of my buddies in Indy are all really ticked off today that the Pacers are not up 1-0. I'm not going to go so far as to say the officiating in the game was terrible. It was just weird. It was just shaky. But I think the game itself was everything that we could have hoped for. It was a throwback to the 90s Knicks Pacer games. It was hard fought. It was back and forth. Obi Toppin throwing a dunk down through his legs against his former team in the Garden was spectacular. The Nemhard dunk, I'm not sure I ever saw that coming from anywhere. And then we got another TJ McConnell game, man. I mean, the kid's been awesome for the Pacers.
Yeah, absolutely. And McConnell has to be awesome because Halliburton was nowhere to be found in this game. The back spasms continue probably to be a little bit of an issue. He keeps playing through it, but not a great game from Halliburton. He was the lowest scoring player for the Pacers in this game, and they played 9 guys. So that's not a good look for your all-star point guard. This game just makes me think of the Nick Nurse quote from the opening round series when he was like, "It doesn't matter if we out-rebound the Knicks or if the Knicks out-rebound us or if Maxey scores 50 or Embiid scores 50 or Brunson scores 50. None of it matters because it's always just going to come down to the last minute." And I feel like that's just what it's going to be like with this Knicks team for the rest of the postseason, right? Doesn't matter what happens in the first 46 minutes of the game. It's that last 2 minutes is what's going to come down to it. And when you have a guy like Jalen Brunson who thrives in those late game situations, they're going to come away with more wins. Once again, Brunson spectacular, 21 fourth quarter points. First player with 4 straight 40-plus point games since Michael Jordan. Pause. That's crazy. Like Jalen Brunson on a category with MJ. Got to mention Brunson having a little bit of revenge on Rick Carlisle, who benched Brunson when they were playing in Dallas with Luka in the playoffs a couple of years ago. So definitely a little bit of revenge for Brunson, and he was fantastic again in game one. Josh Hart, playoff career high, 24 points. He missed 3 free throws, so maybe there is some repercussions from all of the minutes that he's playing. He played all 48 again last night. Going through the playoffs, he's played 48, 42, 48, 43, 46, 53, 46, and 48. I'm just tired reading that off. I can't imagine what those minutes are doing to his body, but it doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. Moving on to the final Nova brother, Dante DiVincenzo, 21 second half points, nailed 5 triples. This Nova trio scored or assisted on 109 of 121 points. Absolutely insane. I want to give a little shout out to my hometown Wisconsin Badgers because they did beat this Nova trio in the playoff in the NCAA tournament in 2017, led by Nigel Hayes, Ethan Happ, and Bronson Koenig. Dante was a redshirt sophomore, Brunson was a sophomore, and Josh Hart was a senior. Those 3 were the only guys that scored in double figures for Villanova, but still a pretty impressive showing for the Badgers. What is that, 7 years now? That's crazy. Anunoby wasn't like, his stat line wasn't spectacular, 9 boards, 2 steals, but his fingerprints were all over this game again. Great defense against multiple guys, right? He can guard 2 through 5, and just like the perfect cog for this team. You look at the Knicks bench, hardly anybody played. McBride played 10 minutes. Robinson played 12 minutes. Achua only played 4 minutes. Thibs is just going to ride this starting lineup as far as they can go. On the flip side, on the Indiana side, we already mentioned Haliburton. Not a great look. He was the lowest scoring guy. McConnell was sensational again. I kind of was hoping that Carlisle would leave McConnell in the fourth quarter, right? Like Haliburton wasn't making an impact, and when McConnell was out on the floor, the Pacers offense was running great. 8 of the 9 guys that played for the Pacers scored at least 8 points. 6 were in double figures. Isaiah Jackson, only 13 minutes, 8 points and 3 blocks, stellar production. And Ben Shepherd off the bench was a team high plus 13. So a lot of really good signs for the Pacers. But like we said, like I opened, it doesn't really matter what happens in the first 46. You got to be clutch in game 2 and moving forward. And obviously there were some calls that didn't go their way, so maybe that flips in the series. But I think the Pacers can make this a series for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a series. It just would have been interesting to see what would happen if the Pacers were up 1-0. Is there anything left for me to talk about in that game? You covered everything. The Hartenstein little push shot from the middle of the paint has become a thing, and I kind of like it. He had a decent game. And the thing about Haliburton, I don't care if he scores or not. He only had 8 assists. I needed 9.5. I did not get that. But so did the Pacers. The Pacers needed more assists out of him. And then, they had the ball left with like 10 seconds. They had the ball back with 10 seconds left and down 4, I think, and found a wide open Haliburton under the basket, and he just came down weird and couldn't turn around or do anything with it. And he had some bad turnovers down the stretch, and he really didn't play very well down the stretch. And everybody says he's fine, but I don't know that he is. And he has not looked right to me since All-Star Weekend. And maybe he's hurt. I don't know. But Halliburton's got to be better. And if he's not going to be better, then sit down and let McConnell play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Pacers all season have kind of relied on that deep bench, right? And playing so many guys and playing at a high, fast pace. So that obviously you need him to play minutes, but you can rely on these bench guys. They have been productive for sure.
And the other thing I wanted to say is the Pacers need OG Anunoby on their team so that they have somebody to guard Jalen Brunson, because whatever they're doing is not working. And nobody can guard Jalen Brunson right now. Him and Anthony Edwards have decided in their minds that they are the best players in the league and that nobody can stop them. And like they are textbook examples of the power of positive thinking right now. So if your kid is having confidence issues, have them sit down and watch Brunson or Anthony Edwards, because those guys, they not only think they're the best player in the league, they know they're the best player in the league. They know they're the best player on the floor, and they know that nobody can stop them. And Brunson's like, he looks like he's 5'11" out there. He's pulling up and popping little mid range, and nobody can stop what he's doing. So,
what were your thoughts on Pascal in this game? He kind of dominated the Bucks. The Bucks didn't really have anybody that could guard him with Giannis out. 19 points, 50% shooting, 6 boards, 5 assists. That's a pretty solid stat line. Were you expecting more from him in that game?
Maybe more points, but I don't know that his point guard was getting him the ball either. Like him and Miles Turner, put up at least one stat in every category, and he had 23 points. But no one really dominated.
Miles Turner's been playing fantastic. He outplayed Brook Lopez in the first round. Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, not great matchups for Miles Turner. So, I think Miles Turner and Pascal, like especially if Halliburton's going to be a shell of himself, those two guys need to be stars to superstars if the Pacers are going to win this series.
You're probably right. And we need for they need for Halliburton to bounce back. And I don't want to blame this whole thing on Halliburton. I think they win the game if the referees don't screw that up. But Halliburton needs to be better. That's all I'm saying. All right, so the Knicks are up 1-0 in that one. So, and that is at New York. Game 2 is at New York. So that's where we are there. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states across the country. Prize Picks is really simple to play. I can make my picks, submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. I kind of like, this goes against what I stand for, but I kind of like the torture chamber tonight guarding Luka. I'm very excited to see how this goes. Lou Dort is going to be all in Luka's face. Supposedly going to shut him down. Well, we're going to put Lou Dort's money where his mouth is. I've got Luka going for less than 32 points tonight with Lou Dort draped all over him. And then on the flip side, I've got Kyrie Irving with more than 24.5 points tonight. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Download the app today and use code ROTOPOD for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code ROTOPOD, ROTOPOD, for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Nice. Kyrie point total at 24.5. Considering Jalen Brunson's yesterday was 34.5, just shows you what kind of tear Brunson's on right now. Like obviously, growing up, like Kyrie's probably one of the most skilled offensive players that we've ever seen, and Jalen Brunson has his point total is 10 more. That's kind of crazy. I know the Pacers don't play a ton of defense, but still a crazy comparison there.
Yeah, and my kid was like, he's like, you said more on Jalen Brunson at that number, and I said, yep. And he's like, wow. He's like, okay.
That number is supposed to scare you off, right? You're supposed to be like, no way. But that's so going over is a good bet.
He's that good, man. That's how good Jalen Brunson is. Speaking of good, game 2, Kirien. You and I have been on an Anthony Edwards thing for what, like 3 months now, maybe?
Yeah, at least.
Like, I'm here for Anthony Edwards for MVP, and I was like, you know what? I'm with you. Why aren't we talking about Anthony Edwards? He's getting ready to take over the league. I've been saying that since the beginning of the season, and then all of a sudden, man, the playoffs get here, and the dude absolutely takes over the league. And every single quote that is coming out of his mouth, whether it's pregame, postgame, in-game, the day before the game, the day after the game, like everything he says is right. And almost everything he's doing is right. He's catching a little heat for I don't know if he's catching heat, but he did a little shimmy, a little Jordan, I don't know what's going on. A little Jordan shrug right in the face of Denver last night. He's getting MVP chants in Denver, loud ones. And he didn't even do anything spectacular last night. He was just kind of chill. He was the glue holding it all together. Oh, by the way, we don't have Rudy Gobert here to guard Jokic or help with anything because he's at home with his kid that was just born yesterday. And Karl Anthony Towns can't play defense, and Mike Conley's 50 years old, and who's this Naz Reid guy? I'm sure that's no big deal. They just went in there, and I mean they slapped the Nuggets again, man. The Nuggets looked like, they didn't look good here, and they kind of look like quitters. They kind of reminded me of the Lakers being out there just pouting and moping around, and Jamal Murray right now reminds you of that. Did you ever see that? I don't know if it's a GIF or what it is, but it was Tom Brady crying about Peyton Manning beating him up, and he's like, and he kept stacking me, and he kept yelling, "Omaha, Omaha," and it's like he's a crying little kid. Jamal Murray threw a heating pad out in the middle of the court. Now, what if someone steps on that heating pad and slips and breaks their face open on the court? I don't know. Is Jamal Murray possibly looking at a suspension?
Yeah, absolutely. The refs said that if they would have seen that, they would have only given him a technical and not an ejection, which was kind of surprising to me. There was another instance where he dropped the towel too. Both of these came mid play, so it's not like it's a timeout and you're you bounce the ball because you're frustrated or something and the play is dead. Guys are running around in a playoff game, not full go throwing something on the court. If a fan did that, they're tossed, right? They're probably not allowed back in the stadium ever right?
Again, right?
So that's absolutely terrible. You nailed it. They looked like quitters. It looked sad, embarrassing. And obviously Jamal had the 2 game-winning shots in the first round series, but other than that, he wasn't playing super well. Those shots kind of hid the fact that he wasn't his usual efficient self. He put up some numbers, but the shooting percentages weren't there. The calf thing, he's been dealing with this calf, so that might be a problem. But if you're on the court, you're healthy, right? It's the postseason. Doesn't matter if you're on the injury report. If you're on the court, we got to see it full go. One injury note in this game, Monty Morris was injured, didn't return. He wasn't playing major minutes, so I don't think that'll affect Minnesota's rotation. And another injury on the other side, Reggie Jackson left. And so if Jamal Murray's suspended and Reggie Jackson is hurt, who's going to play point guard? I mean, obviously you can run a lot through Jokic, but it's scary times in Denver, and Vegas has reflected that. Denver has dropped to plus 1,200 to win the championship after being the second favorites or the favorites for most of the season, while Minnesota has replaced them as the number 2 spot behind Boston, and they're only plus 320. So Vegas is all but signed the check, wrote on the coffin. Denver is in major trouble heading back to Minnesota. One of the things that while I was watching the game, I was like, anytime Denver gets a step, or gets a back cut and there looks like a guy's open, all of a sudden there's a steal or a block. 11 steals and 12 blocks for Minnesota last night. That's crazy. That's some varsity versus JV stuff, man. 23 blocks / steals is absolutely insane. Denver shot only 34.9% from the field, scored a season low 80 points. Nothing good on the Denver side here.
Yeah, and I think everybody on Minnesota through 2 games of this series, which were both in Denver, has like a plus minus of like plus 70 or 80 or I like it's just ridiculous. And I mean, this is just an ass whooping is what's happening. And it's all starts with Anthony Edwards and his attitude,
Yep.
because he doesn't care. And then speaking of not caring, Jokic looked pretty cooked last night. The Nuggets looked kind of cooked. Murray looked kind of cooked. Is Jokic's I just want to go home and play with my horses bit, is that ringing? Is it catching up to him? Is he too chill? Is he too
Nonchalant?
too ready to go home and hang out with his horses?
I mean, there was one play. I feel like Jokic always kind of looks like that, right? Like he's meandering up and down the court, and then he gets the ball, and it's like 2 quick moves, a great pass, and you're like, holy crap, this guy's insane. There was one play in specifically, he got the ball right in the middle of the lane, probably like 5-6 feet out, and he did like a little hook shot. Nas blocked it. He gets it back, tries to put it up again quick. Nas blocks it, and then he goes to the left hand and just misses it. And it's like, that's Nas Reed, 6th man of the year. Got to give Nas some respect. I feel like I have a buddy who's a diehard Timberwolves fan. He's been on them all season. He was sending me screenshots of what he was saying to me in November, like saying this Timberwolves team can win the championship. So he's cashing all his receipts, and he was huge on Nas. And like Nas obviously had the huge fourth quarter in game 1, and it's like, okay, can Nas? Is it good that Nas is your closer? Maybe that's not a good thing. And then obviously he has a fantastic first half with Rudy Gobert out. How many teams do you think Nas Reed would start for in the NBA?
A lot.
A dozen, a half of them. He's a fantastic player, and what a luxury to have. You mentioned Gobert wasn't available. I'm super happy that Minnesota won this game, so we didn't have to listen to all the talking heads talk about like Gobert should have been there for his team and whatever. Like, he's a person. And the fact that like the team fully supported his decision to like go there and be gone and potentially miss this game just shows you how close the Timberwolves are as a team. And when you have that continuity, it's really tough to break up.
Getting into the topic of whether you should play a basketball game the day your first child is born is really slippery slope material. I used to do it. I used to really like to talk about that back in the day when RotoWorld was just a little tiny company, and I could pretty much say whatever I wanted back then. I don't get into things like that very often right now. I will say this though. He was in a different state. The baby was born in a different state. For him to get there last night to play, he would have had to get on a plane and get to Denver. So had this game been in Minnesota or wherever Rudy's baby was born, I assume it was Minnesota, I think he probably would have hung out with the baby all day and then showed up, just before tip-off and played had he been in town where the arena was. I know my wife is very adamant that if I am Scotty Scheffler and I'm walking down the 14th fairway about ready to win the Masters, that if she was to go into labor and give birth to our child and I were to leave the golf course and forfeit that kind of money, that she would kill me when I got to the hospital. So I will say that she's already given me over the years that your job, the kid will be here when you get back. You got to go do your job. But, people think about things differently, and it's all good with whatever you decide to do is good with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And my only point was that, like, it wasn't like Gobert was just like, all right, peace out, guys. I'm not going to be there for game 2. The team like knew that this was a possibility. They had already like given him their blessing, for a lack of a better term, and we're like, you do you, like we'll be fine. And obviously they were fine, and they absolutely dominated. And hopefully Gobert can tell that story to his kid after, when they maybe potentially have a championship ring sometime.
Yeah, I had lost some money on the Derby And then I lost some more money on the Orlando Magic on Sunday. And so I was looking at having to maybe pay some money or maybe getting lucky last night. And I took the 2 underdogs and the points and hit a little parlay. So
Wow.
I don't owe the man. So Mike Malone may lose his mind in this series. He came out on the court after those referees. I can't believe he didn't get a tech. I can't believe something didn't happen. Like, he was nuts. Then they asked him after the game. They said, what's it going to be like trying to come back and beat these guys? And he's, instead of saying, well, we're going to get some things figured out, we're going to go back to the lab and get this turned around and fix it. He was like, I don't know. It's going to be very difficult. And I just felt at that moment, he was like, it's over.
Yeah.
We're done. Is this a sweep?
I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know if I would put money down on it being a sweep. I feel like, Jokic is going to at least will them to one victory. But I wouldn't be shocked. If the Timberwolves start this playoff run with 8 straight wins against Phoenix super team and Denver, and I'm still going to call them a super team because of all their superstars, even if they didn't play like one. And maybe we have to give Phoenix a little bit of a break after seeing what Minnesota's doing to the reigning champions. Pretty insane. My last thing on this game and this series is we got to mention Tim Connelly. He was part of building this Denver team, right? He joined them in 2013. He was named president in 2017, moved to Minnesota in 2022, traded for Gobert. So it's kind of like he built up this dominant team, and then he was like, I'm going to go see if I can build a team that can beat this team now. So his fingerprints are all over the NBA right now, and would be remiss not to mention him a little bit.
I think it's over. I think it's a sweep. I'm going to go with Murray is not going to be suspended. Then again, I don't know. I mean, you can't do that.
No.
Maybe he will be. I don't know. What are the odds in Vegas right now? Also, what if we were voting for MVP today instead of a month ago?
Ant better be getting some votes. That's all I have to say.
Ant's getting votes. SGA is still getting votes. Luka's getting votes. And at this point, Jokic is losing votes.
Yeah.
Not that it matters because the votes are already in, but I just didn't think. And the other thing I noticed about this last night was I felt like they got down. Denver got down, and everybody just started getting annoying. Like Jokic was like poking and prodding people and pushing buttons and doing weird stuff with his arms that doesn't feel like he always does those things. Like, I think he was so frustrated. He just started to annoy me a little bit. And Jamal Murray for sure, the same thing. So I don't know. All right. Tonight, Tuesday. How fired up am I right now for the late game? Pretty fired up. But there's an early game first that I think we know the outcome already. Cavaliers at the Celtics for game 1. No Porzingis. Probably no Jared Allen. Is Jared Allen out?
He's listed as questionable. He was listed as questionable for the 3 games that he missed in the first round series. So not trending in the right direction.
Okay. So probably no Jared Allen and no Porzingis. Cancels each other out. I think Jared Allen is a bigger loss for Cleveland than Porzingis is for the Boston Celtics because they just treat him as a luxury item anyway, that they can plug him in there when he's healthy enough to play. And if he can't, they just will deal without him that night. Key to this thing is Donovan Mitchell, your guy, your one-legged scoring machine, is on fire again. And he's got that dog in him a little bit like Brunson and Ant do. But Boston has Drew Holiday and Derek White, which is the best defensive backcourt in basketball. They're going to have one job tonight, and that's stopping Donovan Mitchell. So good luck with that. I just think the Celtics are the better team by a mile and are probably, I wrote for ESPN that I thought that a good bet was go Celtics sweep, like plus, I think it was plus 900 maybe. Thoughts on
Wow.
that?
I love that bet. I might go check that out after this pod.
It may have
Plus
been
one.
plus 600. Kirien, calm down. I don't have my facts in front of
Any
me.
plus money for a sweep, I think, would be pretty good money for this. Boston's minus 12 tonight. Money line for tonight is minus 650, and they're minus 1400 to win the series. So if they got plus money for a sweep, I might have to sprinkle a little bit on there. Like you said with Donovan Mitchell, I've been concerned about his injuries. He got a little cold in the first round series and then got hot in game 7 again and willed them to a victory. If that game 7 Mitchell plays, if he plays like that in this series, I think he can win a game or two. I just don't think that he can reach that level, like you said, playing against Derek White and Drew Holiday, which is the best defensive backcourt in the league. And like you said, KP is more of a luxury for the Celtics. It's having Al Horford, veteran, do it all, Swiss Army knife, to come in and start after a guy like KP gets injured is insane, and it's one of the reasons why the Celtics are such heavy favorites this year. Celtics did win the regular season series 2-1. The only game that they lost was in March, and Dean Wade, who won't be playing tonight for the Cavs, scored 20, and the Cavs didn't have Mitchell and Evan Mobley left early. So that game was kind of weird and funky. You said Mitchell is the key. I don't think I think that Mitchell can carry them to maybe a win. But Darius Garland, I don't know what's going on, man. I thought I have really high expectations for him. I think he's a really good player, can be a perennial all-star type of guy. He only averaged 15 points in the first round series. They're going to need more from him if they don't want to get swept in here. So I think Darius Garland is one of the big X factors for the Cavs to make this at least a respectable series.
All right. Celtics 4-0 is plus 140. That's not quite 900. Plus 140. Celtics in 7 is plus 700. So I think that was at 900 the other day when I did that. That was 3 days ago I did this. So I've slept 3 times since then. So winning 7 was the big payout, but the sweep still pays 140. If you think it's gentlemen's 4-1, it's plus 170 for the Celtics. So that's not too bad. And there is some actual accurate information from Dr. A for once. So let me get back to where I came from. Yeah, Darius Garland, Jamal Murray, Tyrese Halliburton. It hasn't been a great run for point guards. But Derek White plays one on TV, and he's been awesome. He's been so good for the Celtics, and such a more fun player to watch than Drew Holiday, right? Drew's just hound dog defense in there, and Derek White's just out there doing whatever he wants. But I don't know, man. I feel like the Celtics are just going to roll right through the East.
Definitely. The late night game is way more interesting than this one, for sure.
That would be my Dallas Mavericks at your OKC Thunder. Not only do we have a whole Luka versus Dort versus SGA thing going on, we got a old school college football showdown out there, with Oklahoma versus Texas, and there's a lot of good stuff going on here. So the talk of Twitter the last 2 days, or the underlying talk of Twitter, is how Lou Dort, the torture chamber, is just going to be draped all over Luka Doncic and shut him down and take him out of his game. I don't know that there is anyone in the NBA that can do that to Luka, but maybe Lou Dort's the guy. And if someone does shut Luka down and stops him from going where he wants to go and doing what he wants to do. He's just going to find Kyrie, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, PJ Washington, and try to keep things going. But I am a little nervous that Lou Dort is going to get out there and really get into Luka's head. And I kind of feel like he's going to try to make some mini friendlier than Pat Beverly, but similar to Pat Beverly early statement with a nice hard something on Luka. What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And obviously, if it doesn't need to go as far as getting a technical or getting tossed, but losing Dort would be if they get like some double technicals or stuff. I think that's a huge win for OKC because OKC has Case and Wallace, some other bench guys that can come in and fill in that role. And so like I feel like if it becomes Lou versus Luka, that's a huge win for OKC because they want to take Luka away and they want to make him a non-factor. And by like, then you have SGA and you have Chet and you have Jalen Williams that can go do their thing. So if they can make that like a 1v1 and make Luka think that he needs to dominate that matchup, I think that would be definitely a win. Kyrie is my like X factor for this series. The way he looked against the Clippers, man, it looked like the LeBron James Cleveland Cavaliers when they won a championship, and it was like LeBron's going to get me there, right? Luka's going to get me to that fourth quarter. We're going to be a close game, and then I can go off, right? And then I can be Kyrie, and I don't need to do it. I don't need to be this guy for 4 quarters. I don't need to score 50. I just need to score 15 in the fourth or whatever. So he's my big X factor. OKC is favorites at home. Not really surprising. I'm sure when the series flips back to Dallas might be like slight favorites. This is a toss-up. I really hope this one goes 7 just for like the entertainment factor of it. Betting wise, I'm probably leaning OKC in game 1, but Dallas for the series. I just think that Dallas with Gafford and Derek Lively, their defense really turned it around. PJ Washington, big acquisition. I think this is the year that Luka makes that deep postseason run, and we really start talking about him as one of the best in the league, and not just because of his stats, but because of what he can do in the postseason.
Does he not need a sidekick other than Kyrie? Like, where did Tim Hardaway Jr. go? Like, Tim Hardaway Jr. in the middle of the season was kind of balling. Josh Green, I think a lot of us see a lot of potential in Josh Green, and like where are these guys, and how do you survive an NBA playoff series without a small forward? Like, who is Dallas's small forward? It's Derek Jones Jr., man. Like,
yeah,
4 points a game out of your small forward. It's the hardest position to draft in fantasy because they're the good ones, once they're gone, they're gone. And I just don't understand how Dallas can survive without a small forward.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a concern. I just think that when you have 2 heliocentric guys like Luka and Kyrie, like having that third option, kind of like, you look at like Phoenix, right? And it's like, okay, you have KD and you have Devin Booker. We need to have the third guy in Bradley Beal. But then you saw Bradley Beal in those games, and it's like it's really hard for him to make an impact because Kevin Durant and Devin Booker have the ball the entire time. So, yeah, I think that's a little bit of a concern, but I think it's just like that small forward spot is kind of just like whoever's hot that night, right? Derek Jones, Josh Green, Tim Hardaway, Dante Exum at times during the regular season played really well. In the postseason, it's a different animal. So I think a combination of those 4 guys at one point, like maybe in game 2, it's Derek Jones, and in game 3, it's Josh Green. I do think
you're kidding yourself, dude. They're never hot. None of them are ever hot. I had Derek Jones Jr. on my 30 deep team this whole year, and he, hot was 6 points and a block and a steal and a 3. Like they, but maybe you're right. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise that they don't, maybe it's better for Kyrie and Luka to have to share the ball with fewer people. I like that angle.
You're right. You're definitely right. In December, though, I just want to there was one stretch where Dante Exum was insane. And in December, 12-game stretch, 16 points, 4.5 assists, 4 rebounds, a steal. He shot 63% from the field, so probably not sustainable, and it definitely wasn't. And then he got hurt, and he missed like the next month and a half, and he's only scored in double figures a handful of times since then, and he was scoreless 3 times during the opening round series. So you're right. I'm probably being a little optimistic saying that they can get hot, but maybe
but it's a good call. I just don't think they need that fourth guy. Like they want a vacuum out there that they don't have to pass it to, that's just going to eat up space. Which is interesting. It's an interesting way to run your offense. And what else is kind of cool about this series is I love the fact that the Thunder are kind of like, hey, we've got Lou Dort. Let's tell the world we're going to throw him at Luka and we're going to shut Luka down. And I don't know that any other NBA defense has gone into a game against Luka or a series against Luka where their whole goal was to shut him down and take him away from what he does. And so if they do this and it works, they're going to look like Daigneault is going to look like a genius.
Yeah, absolutely. On OKC and Minnesota, I feel like a lot of teams or a lot of fans, a lot of analysts kind of looked at them all season as like, well, they're young. They'll get theirs in the postseason. They'll figure it out. They'll hit a wall. And so far, we haven't. Those two teams are 10-0 in the postseason, so we haven't seen any sort of being young of impacting them negatively at all. And I think that moves to 11-0 tonight. Though I do think this is going to be a super close game and very entertaining.
I've got Mavs in 7. Also, y'all may have heard I've got other podcast stuff going on right now out there, but I'm not going anywhere. Kirien and I are going to be here every Tuesday. Camla and I are going to be here every Thursday. So no worries there. I'm super psyched to be doing this. Kirien, we'll do this again on Tuesday. We will be in the thick of it. We'll know what's going on with the Mavs and Thunder. I assume that by then the Denver Nuggets will be in Cancun, gone fishing. And hopefully we're still here holding it down and getting it done. I'll see y'all with Rick Kamla on Thursday at 11. Kirien, have a great day.
See you later, Dr. A.
See you guys.